Welcome to this UDES 3 replay. We've got UnBannMee in the UDES 3 and his friend General Paulus, and you might remember UnBannMee from the really nice SP1C replay he sent me in the past, which I really enjoyed watching. Since then I've actually played the SP1C myself again, so thank you for that. I really needed reminding how really nice and awesome that little tank was. But UnBannMee since then has sent me a couple of replays. One was a really nice match in the Type 59 in terms of all the results he got, but when I watched it I was thinking there's a little bit too much basic gameplay mistakes in this match to feature on the channel. But then he mentioned that he sent it deliberately because he was hoping that I was going to roast him for it, so you never know, I might actually feature that video later on. But this match in the UDES 3 was actually really quite good, because this tank is the first of the Swedish TDs that gets the nice suspension mechanics, where you basically enter the siege mode and you can basically crank this tank up and down to use the gun depression, because the gun is locked in place in terms of the left and right axes. As you can see, it's basically bolted to the chassis, and the only difference between this and the tier 9 and 10 is that the gun actually can go up and down, whereas in the others it's basically completely bolted to the chassis, so you can only move the chassis. But in this tank you can actually move the back up really far, and then, as you can see, lift the gun, so you can actually sort of hide behind really low cover and then just crank your tank up and then just basically poke your gun over the cover and shoot something else. And UnBannMee actually does this quite well in these replays, where he's just well, he's a bit over-angling the armor, but the silhouette he's providing is so small that it's really difficult for enemies to actually hit him. So yeah, he's making good use of this ridge here. Another good thing that in this match there's no enemy arty, and unless the enemy team a really nice blind fire onto that enemy Cromwell there, he knew that Cromwell was there. Because he was constantly getting spotted, so he did the right thing firing into the bush. He fires now without siege mode, which misses. These tanks become really accurate in the siege mode, and outside the siege mode they're sort of shotguns. The aiming is really slow and everything, so that's why you have to basically use siege mode or get really lucky and damage the vehicle regardless. But as we can see, T-34 here hiding behind the building. But what I was saying is that unless enemies have got someone in D5, and if they don't have arty, you can pretty much sit in D1 in relative impunity, because no one will actually be able to shoot you. So the circumstances were really good for UnBannMee in this situation, where you could basically just stick in that location, just expose as little of his tank as possible to the guys in front of him, and then just keep firing. Here again, T-34 doesn't actually spot UnBannMee, because this TD actually has a better camo than most tier 8 light tanks, believe it or not. So it's really difficult to spot. Unfortunately though, his team in the city melted, because they didn't actually have, they had a lot of tier 7 tanks there, some tier 8 tanks, but they all melted in front of the enemy, unfortunately. So now it's up to UnBannMee and his friend to move up. UnBann sets up shop on this ridge, while General Paulus basically just moves up to spot further up in base, and that's actually a really good tactic, because the thing is, General Paulus could actually just be playing a passive spotter role there and not firing. Obviously for your own damage and XP that's not really good, but for the team and to actually win the match, that is still a valid tactic. Even though you're not a light tank, that is still, just do what you have to do to win the match. Don't be picky. I mean, you can do your damage in another match. If you're in a position to do the spotting, just don't fire, give your position away and get killed. If anything can be done about it, just spot for your allies and get the assistance damage. UnBannMee basically shoots the KV-3, doesn't get spotted. shoots the Tiger 2, misses, shoots into the building, but gets spotted. And that's the thing with the Tiger 2. Tiger 2 actually has relatively good view range, especially compared to the Russian tanks. So it's not really that strange that he got spotted for that shot. He might actually not have camo crew. I don't actually know his crew setup in this tank, so it could well be that he's just got 100% crew with 6 hands. And here we can see another mistake as well. One of the mistakes in this match is that he stays too long in that position even though he's spotted. And at first he was in that position, he got spotted, he didn't get fired at, so that sort of made him a little bit complacent in just staying in that position and taking a little bit too much of a risk, because this TD, it's a tier 8 TD and it's got 1000 HP, which is not a lot. I mean, some of the other TDs go up to, tier 8 ones go up to, can't remember exactly, 14 or 1600. I think the Yak Tiger 88. I don't know if it's got the same, it's got 1800. I can't remember exactly, but anyway, this TD has less HP than most light tanks of the tier. So yeah, it's something to keep in mind. 3 shots by Russian guns and you're basically toast. Well, 2.5. So you really do not want to get shot at. That's why you should use your insane camo to basically not get spotted and try and fight from range. And that's a bit what UnBannMee also tries to do, because he also realizes that the enemy is basically behind him. So he goes up to this ridge to try and spot the enemy, and he sees the Oni. Tries to turn, but there's a little house in the way, and then he spots the Löwe. And shortly you'll see the second mistake in this match. Shoots the Löwe and sits here, gets spotted and still sits here. And these are the moments. I mean, the Löwe hits him, and luckily the Oni misses, but he should actually have been dead. He waits too long in situations where you basically know you're going to get spotted. That's what I've been seeing other players in replays do. Is basically, if you don't know for certain, you just take a shot and you immediately exit siege mode and start driving. If you don't get spotted, you just set up siege mode again and keep firing because you know you're not getting spotted. But in tricky situations like this, fire, exit siege, drive away, and then if it's safe, you just stay there and fire. But yeah, in the end he managed to kill the Löwe. He managed to kill the KV-3, nice shot into the drive wheel that was barely visible, and you can see UnBannMee just janking the back of his tank up to try and keep the gun on the target. So yeah, really nice use of siege mechanics as well. And now suddenly it's turned around. They both got 4 kills and there's just 1 enemy tank left. So General Paulus almost on full HP, UnBannMee on 5 HP, and most of his matches end like this where he's got like 10 HP left. And he takes a little bit too much risk. Also in the other replays that he sends me, but in this one it actually paid out and they managed to win the match. So yeah, UDES 3 looks quite fun. Feedback I've had from clanmates, some say it's an absolute shit tank. I mean, some other streamers claim so as well, but if you've got matches like this on maps like this where you can actually keep range, then it's a pretty cool tank actually. But if you're stuck in a city brawl with this thing, I can totally imagine why people think it's absolute trash. The siege mechanics are just not suited for engagements like that, but on these kind of open maps they are. And yeah, 5.1k damage that we saw. So let's take a look at the post-battle results screen. So here we have the results of the UDES 3 match by UnBannMee, and obviously he got an ace tanker, which is quite an achievement in these tanks at the moment, because the XP requirements for ace tankers are ridiculously high for especially the tier 8, 9 and 10 vehicles of the new Swedish line. So yeah, congratulations for that in itself, that's quite an achievement. Obviously they've got brothers in arms because they both got more than 3 kills. UnBannMee actually managed to get 5, yeah, 5. He also got a Confederate for basically shooting everyone on the enemy team and the high caliber, not surprisingly. he managed to do 5.9k damage combined. So in the match we saw 5.1, but 2 of his blind shots seem to have hit. So 5.9, 6k damage, 1582 base XP, and with what I've seen, I think the ace tanker for this tank at the moment is around 1400, 1450 probably. So yeah, it's quite an achievement to get an ace on this vehicle. Got loads of ribbons as well. Other than that, he also did 493 spotting, and he received 5 hits, 4 penetrations. So yeah, the armor, especially on the tier 8, is not actually that good. The best way, as I said, with engaging is just provide as little silhouette as possible to the enemy to shoot at, and then basically use the insane mechanics to basically just poke your gun over ridges and shoot the enemy. So yeah, thanks for sending me this replay. I really enjoyed it. Hope you did as well, and see you guys next time.